I actually come from a retailing background. I actually worked in industry for 15 years, and then I got my master's and my PhD part-time while I was working. So I tell everyone I do fashion, style, and popular culture. Immediately people think that I'm a fashion person, but in actuality I have to reveal another secret about myself. I'm actually an operations manager. I was in retailing, but I was basically in ops. So I have a tendency to kind of run this journal in the same way, very operational. So you'll probably see that in the talk that I'm giving today. And the one thing though that I will say about every single member of our entire team is that we all really like people. It really is a people-oriented journal, which is kind of important as our strategy because fashion has a tendency to be somewhat of a little bit stuffy. And I've encountered that in the past, that there's some deep dark mystery about fashion, and reality is there really isn't. I don't think. So we wanted to build a team that was very friendly and then enjoyed working with people because we thought that was the most important thing.
So I met Jo about 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And we sort of at a conference, at a pop culture conference in the US, PCA, we immediately sort of hit it off because we were both formerly practitioners, and my background is in public relations and branding. I used to work for Besson Marsteller, a major American multinational PR company, and I had fashion clients and lifestyle clients, so that's my background. Then latterly, from the late 90s, went into teaching, which these subjects basically: fashion studies, fashion communication, pop culture, and PR and advertising. And so it was just great to find a sort of kindred spirit, and we talked about publishing and where to publish beyond the sort of Journal of Popular Culture, PCA. And Jo and I had this conversation. I think we were saying it was in Boston about 6 or 7 years ago, about, we need a journal. There needs to be a journal covering fashion, not from a theoretical perspective, but from a hybrid perspective of theory, practice, and creating a space for people who maybe were excluded from that conversation. And that really is how it all got started, I guess. And
yeah, that was in Boston in 2011. One of the things that we did, and one of the things that I think is important for you all as journal editors, is to really understand that we do publish innovative and new works, but there has to be some sort of interest in your journal. And so what I literally went around and did is I actually talked to people and I said, what are your frustrations with where you're publishing now? What do you want to see from a journal? And both Ann and I belong to an association, and I started to see that everyone every year would say, there's no place for me to publish my paper after I give it at this conference. Which immediately I kept listening to this over and over. There's no place to publish my paper. There's no place to publish my paper. And actually, there were journals for them to publish their paper, but they weren't approachable. Actually, it was really about this time that I met James. And so I basically kind of proposed the journal idea to James, and we thought about it. It wasn't really this immediate, yeah, let's go for it. And actually, I think I proposed it first to Masood. And that was when we were in the basement, and I can't remember what conference we were in the basement, when they had all the exhibitors in the basement.
That was Boston, yeah.
That was in Boston. And Masood was kind of, let's think about it. So we thought about it. So what I did was, and I think even though some of you have established journals, what you can also do in that regard is really, I started to think about what our journal could it was fashion and popular culture. That was the journal. So I started to think about what isn't anyone really talking about, and it actually was Ted Polemus. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ted Polemus, who did the book Street Style. He's a very interesting character. I emailed him and he said, Jo, there are no journals out there that talk about style. So I said, there aren't. So that was kind of our niche. So I talked to James again. I went back to James, and I always go to my group first. I actually, and I'll talk about this, but I always get my associate editor's permission. I went to my group and I said, what if we do this as fashion, style, and popular culture? And they all said, that's a great idea. And that's what I proposed to James. And so that was when the light bulbs went on to say, okay, we think this is going to be a really good journal. And some of the things that we do that are outside of the box, and what Ann was talking about, is we actually we move beyond things, you know, everyone does, how many of you do book reviews in your journal already? Book reviews. We wanted to do things like, and I think this would be great for punk and post-punk. We do things like, we want our members to go out and our contributors go out and review concerts or review events. I'm gonna try to. It's been very hard for us. You know, if you take your students to the Ralph Lauren Mansion in New York, what a great review of that store. Taking photographs of that store and talking about how that store is the flagship store of Ralph Lauren and why it really emulates Ralph Lauren. How great for a fashion journal. If you go to a costume collection, if you take your students to a costume collection and they have innovative costume or fashion, what a great review to review a costume collection. It doesn't have to be presented, but you get a behind-the-scenes tour and you can talk about that. Or I took my students this summer to Liberty Fairs, which is a men's trade show, and they're kind of the alternative men's trade show, so they kind of think outside the box in regards to men's fashion. They think niche marketing, and they're all about innovative fashion. So I'm going to try to push my group to get more involved in this, and I'm going to review the trade show, and I'm going to publish it. Actually, don't laugh, I'm probably not going to publish it in my journal. I'm actually probably going to publish it in Andy's journal. But I'm going to do a trade show to say, you know, these are important things that we should be doing as academics. So a little bit more about the importance of the journal. It's really important, and I always say this. So I've known James since 2009, and we started talking about the journal in 2010, and we solidified the idea with Style in 2011. And it took us 2 years to get the journal going. What I wanted to do was, in order for me to present the journal in print and to say I'm ready to go, is I wanted to have 2 issues. So I actually began by, you know, doing a call for papers, saying I have this journal, and really also the most important is I went out and I started getting my associate editors. And so I actually chose, and you're going to see this is my strategy, so I'm going to share the strategy with you. I actually have, you're going to say, my gosh, she's got a lot of people. I actually went out and got associate editors because, and actually I did this, I found people that are better than me. That I know if I was gone tomorrow, those people could run the journal. And so I thought that was that was like the most important thing to me. It's emotional for me because I like all these guys. And I went to my mentors, like the people that had really mentored me as a scholar. And I said to them, would you be interested in being an associate editor for me? So these, and James can tell you, these are people that are highly regarded in my discipline. And they said, we'll do it. What's your vision? And so I had to have a vision, and so my vision was to be inclusive, was to be transparent, was to walk the intellect talk of being innovative in thought, including new voices. And they said, okay, fine, if this is how you're going to operate, then great. Because a lot of them had been on journals before where they were members or they were associate editors of journals, and they got to do absolutely nothing. And these are all workers, and so I'll get to that in a moment too. And then with my advisory board's a little bit different. My advisory board are people that would have liked to have been associate editors, but probably couldn't be as committed. But they were willing to step up to the plate, and they review for me continuously. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about as well is that this is my editorial board. We have a working editorial board. My editorial board does not sit there and use this as Vita filler. So when you were talking about people that are lazy, this is where the punk in us comes out a little bit. We're kind of ruthless.
Well, I took over the lead editorship last year and had a complete clear out. I cleared out the people that were doing nothing and brought in a whole bunch of people who did work. So
exactly.
we arranged it.
Well, let me tell you how we work. We work. First of all, the first thing I did, and Anne was part of the strategy, and so were all these people. Sean, Patricia, Susan, Veronica, Ann Pearson, and Jessica, as well as my associate advisory board. One thing, if you're not in fashion, some of you are not in fashion studies, most of you. One thing you would note about these people, I have to tell you this flat out, you will not see these names anywhere else. I went out and found people that no one asked before. But I found people that knew that they would work, I knew would work their butts off. And they do work their butts off. There are these academics that are always working, but no one ever invites them to be a part of anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on with that? So I invited all the people that work. And I thought, this is going to be great. And so we're kind of ruthless in the sense everyone on the editorial board and advisory board and all the associates editors know that if you are unable to complete 2 reviews a year, you're out. That's how we operate. 2 peer reviews a year, and that's it. I have enough people here, they don't do more than 2. And they're fine with that. And I have enough people that represent such diversity as far as method, as far as area in fashion, as far as age, you have the ruthless scholar who rejects everything, right? I have a couple ruthless up here, and I have them up there for a reason, because they're my hardest reviewer. So if I send something to them, more than likely sometimes they always have major revision. So I balance it. I'll send it to one of the meanies. That's a hard, but they're great editors. So when I send it to them, I know they write all over the paper. So they're the best person to get for the person whose article may need some help. And you can say, listen, you need major revision, but this person over here really liked it, okay? So, but look at this person who wrote all over your paper, because they're giving you really good ideas of where to take this paper. And so I kind of balance it out, but that's how we operate. If you cannot do 2 reviews in a year, you're out. And Bethan will tell you this, probably once a year or every other, I'm always constantly changing the board. They constantly change. And I actually have people that come up to me and say, you know what, this has been a great ride for me, but I can't do this anymore. And they're retired, or, they've got other projects. So what I think is great about this is these people and I actually talk. So I actually talk to them, and I actually get their advice. And to go back to this really quickly, I'm accountable to these people. So these people here, if I don't do my job, they come and track me down and tell me. I'm a management by servitude kind of person. I actually, from my background, I actually want to make everyone here, I think they're more important than I am. So I want them to all be happy. Because they're to me, they're my customers. They're the ones that I try to please. And then, I'm not going to read this, but coming up with like the journal's aims and scopes, that was a democratic decision. I sent it out to everyone, and any journal can change their aims and scopes at any time. You can alter it, you can update it, but I sent this out to all of them and I said, what do you think? And they all put their 2 cents in and said, this is what we think it should say, this is how we think it should look. So this was a group effort. And then, I'm making it seem as like I'm so democratic, but at times I'm not, just so you know. There's times that I just have to make a decision. And then, the other thing is we're really policy driven. We're a policy driven journal in the sense of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Intellect has done a reference page for everyone in this room. It is so detailed. These guys have worked their butt off to make sure that you know exactly everything that you need to do for your journal. And when you have a guest editor, everything they need to know is here. So I really follow this page, and I make my guest editors follow this page so that they're aware of, they don't have to invent rules as they go along. Like my guest editors inevitably always say to me, well, what's the review process? How does it work? How is it supposed to be laid out? They have a map for you in here. That literally tells you what to do. It's like one of those little maps that you read. If it doesn't go here, it goes here. If it doesn't go here, it goes over here. So they look at those things, and those things are really important. So I just wanted to tell you guys, we don't make up rules. Sometimes we have challenged the rules. Just 2 minutes ago, I was telling James, there's the number one. I don't know how many of you have this. The number one download or document I send everyone that they always come back and say, I don't understand this document, is the image document. That tells you what kinds of images you can put in an article and what the resolution has to be. And I think the biggest offender of that is they don't read it. it's an image document. I think they're just looking at the pictures. They're not reading the document. So, so I'm constantly saying, do you want to call me and we can go over it together? So that's the only one that people will give you some sort of grief over. And then,